In this video, I will discuss leader-member exchange theory. Leader-member exchange theory is a theory that examines the relationships that leaders have with followers. These relationships are seen as the key to organizational effectiveness. Leaders create two types of groups. We've all probably been in both of these groups at one point or another, although we can only typically be in one group at a time. There is an in-group and there is an out-group. As the name implies, the in-group is more favored by the leader. The out-group is less favored by the leader. And again, if we reflect upon our experiences in organizational life at various times with various leaders, we've either been in the more favored in-group or the less favored out-group. Leaders and followers have individual relationships. And this leader-follower group is referred to as a dyad. The relationship is transactional. We examine the exchanges between a leader and a follower. The follower does something for the leader in turn does something for the follower. We examine the quality of the relationship as running on a continuum from stranger through acquaintance to partnership. We also examine the characteristics of a relationship from the perspective of the roles, levels of influence, the types of exchanges, and the interests served in that relationship. If we look at phase one, the stranger relationship, in which neither the leader nor the follower know each other very well, the roles are typically very scripted. Each behaves according to typically organizational rules, regulations, policies, SOPs, things of that nature. The relationship is typically characterized by influence that travels from the leader to the follower, just a one-way influential relationship. The exchanges are typically very low quality because each is fulfilling just simply the organizationally defined roles. Typically, each is serving their own self-interest in this type of a relationship. Usually, very quickly, the relationship will move into the acquaintanceship phase, and there the roles become more tested. The leader may give the follower a little more latitude based upon knowledge, skill, ability, levels of trust, and the leader may loosen or may assume a role that's less directive. The influences are mixed. The follower may influence the leader. Typically, that is again through performing in a manner that earns trust, both personally and professionally and technically. The exchanges become qualitatively better, in which typically the leader may give the follower more autonomy, may give them more perks, more responsibilities or things of that nature. And the interests are where they are each serving their own self-interest as well as the self-interest of the other party. As the relationship matures, it may move into the partnership phase. And these roles are negotiated, and again, that's highly dependent upon levels of trust and levels of technical and professional expertise and ability. The influences are reciprocal. The follower influences the leader influences the follower in a typically a more frequent level than as an acquaintanceship. The exchanges become high quality, and the interests that are served typically are of the larger group that they're both members of. Now, typically, the leader and follower will move through these phases. Typically, the literature shows us fairly quickly. And again, it may depend upon whether or not typically the follower has the ability to perform adequately to deserve of moving into the partnership phase. There are certain indicators of in-group membership, and all of these, when we look at them, it'll be obvious that they're indicators of partnership. But there's a high degree of communication and information, and again, this will be two-way because we know we influence people with communication and information. The leader and follower will be more reciprocally involved in decisions. Again, the influence will travel in both directions, and typically the follower can influence the leader's decision making. The subordinate is typically given priority task assignments by the leader. The greater the level of trust and the greater the level of technical and professional expertise, the more likely it is that the leader will give important tasks to that subordinate. There's greater job latitude. The greater the level of trust, the greater level of technical expertise, the more likely it is that the leader will give the subordinate greater autonomy in deciding how to do the job and when to do the job and how. There's greater levels of support. The leader typically gives the subordinate greater levels of support, both personally and professionally, and that's reciprocated in that the subordinate gives greater levels of support, both personal and professional, to the leader. And finally, there's greater levels of attention, particularly in terms of interpersonal relationships. The leader typically pays greater attention to the subordinate when there's a partnership, and the subordinate typically pays greater attention to the leader as well. Now there's some problems with out-group assignment. An out-group assignment typically is characterized by low or non-existent levels of each of these previous characteristics we just discussed. But when there are too many individuals assigned to the out-group, or where the in-group is highly homogeneous, much as we discussed in our group theories, then the in-group can suffer from groupthink. We know that when we assign people to the out-group, we may lose their creativity, diversity, and their knowledge, skills, and abilities. And we may overburden in-group members. It's common for leaders to turn to their go-to person. But we do that typically as leaders because it's easier for us, and we're turning to people we know we can trust. So in many ways it makes sense. But after a period of time, we will overburden those in-group members. And there's a cumulative effect of all of these things, that as we overburden our in-group members with tasks, we tend to increase the likelihood of groupthink. We tend to lose creativity, and knowledge, skills, and abilities can actually degrade because they're not learning, and we don't have new members bringing new ideas to the work environment. There are some unintended consequences from out-group membership. This is a typical organizational chart of a hierarchical relationship. You see a leader there, the top triangle. You see lines of authority to two subordinates there, who are depicted as triangles, and then the lines of authority to their subordinates. But on the far right, you see the polygon, and that would be indicative of a person who is in the out-group. The problem with that is not just that one individual leader is in that higher level leader's out-group. By its very nature, if your boss is in his boss's out-group, you too are in the out-group. So as limited information flows to your superior, limited decision-making authority, limited priority task. As all of those things degrade, the consequences of that tend to roll downhill in an organization. Some practical insights, that we can gain through LMX is that smart, thoughtful leaders, don't let in-group, out-group assignment happen just by chance. That we're thoughtful about it. That we want to bring as many people as possible into the in-group, but we certainly don't want to bring people into the in-group who aren't deserving of that level of status. The overarching goal, again, should be to move as many people as possible to the in-group. And again, the primary considerations there should be the technical and professional expertise and levels of trust, not necessarily matters of personality. And we need to include people we don't get along with, simply because, again, personality differences may exist. Is no reason to keep someone in the out group, even though it may be unpleasant for us as a leader. We need to at times make that sacrifice in order to help our group perform better. And again, make unemotional decisions on out-group assignment. It may, from time to time, be appropriate to assign someone to out-group status. So that we send clear messages about possible levels of performance or personal levels of trust in the organization, and think back to motivation through consequences, in that this is a way we can potentially leverage observational learning, in which we can provide negative reinforcement. But again, that shouldn't be permanent. It should be temporary, so that an individual has a way to earn their way back into the in-group. Continuing to look at these practical insights, again, we don't want to make out-group membership permanent. We want to try to bring as many people as possible into the in-group. The larger in-group as a leader, the better. But any unsalvageable cases should be considered for removal from the group or the organization. At some point, if the individual is that untrustworthy or performs that poorly, they probably shouldn't be members of the group and or the organization, much less in-group members. Leader behaviors. Essentially, all of the indicators of in-group membership are behaviors that leaders can engage in to bring people into the in-group. Provide high levels of communication and information, give subordinates influence in decisions to the extent that their knowledge, skills, and abilities warrant, to provide task assignments, again, to the extent that their KSAs warrant, to give them the autonomy that they deserve, the level of support and attention that they also deserve. So these are the things that we can do as leaders to try to bring people into the in-group. And again, none of this is based on personality. It should be based on levels of personal and professional trust and levels of knowledge, skill, and ability demonstrated in the workplace.